I found music through Lego. At 11, convinced I was going to be a master builder and work at Lego HQ. Like, that was my dream. One day I came across my mum's MacBook and went on there and saw GarageBand. I was like, what is this? You just have a bank of sounds and loops, essentially, that you can just drag and drop. And I was like, you can build a song? The reason why I'm learning Korean is because I work in K-pop. So for the past 10 months, I've been producing and writing for K-pop bands.
Your management happens to have worked with the king of pop.
Yes, Mr. Quincy Jones. Yes, he's a cool guy.
I feel like you're going to teach me a word today.
Probably.
Yeah.
I teach myself words. I forget them, and then 5 years later, I'm like, oh, wait.
I don't know what it was the first day we did podcasts. Every single person that came in said proclivity. Like maybe 3 times in all of their podcasts. I was like, maybe this is a word I need to look up. Maybe it's a very, very strange coincidence, but I have no clue why everybody's saying it.
Crazy. They probably all looked at the same, podcast tutorial.
For sure.
How to sound smart.
Yeah, how to sound smart. It's such pastor language too. They're like, see the proclivity of this happening, and I'm like, all right. I swear, I'm on the side, just Googling it real fast. Maybe I need to know this.
Probably.
God's trying to get a message to me. I got a question for you.
Okay.
How you doing?
Wow. Thanks for asking. I'm well, thank you. It's been a lot of life. I mean, I just moved into my new place.
Oh, yeah. We didn't even talk about that.
I know. I moved in on Thursday.
That's amazing.
So it's very fresh. But yeah, man, that's been cool. And just kind of easing into a new schedule with everything. Because I'm always about my morning routines. And now it's a whole new thing. So I'm having to reorient everything with the new move and everything. So yeah, I'm excited though.
What does your morning routine look like?
Well, I like to wake up at 7 and then kind of have breakfast, go straight to the gym. And then after that, shower. And I'd like to just usually I carve out probably 45 minutes for Bible time, whether it's just prayer or kind of just praying, getting words from God, worship, things like that. And then I go into kind of my academic time. So I'm learning Korean and guitar.
Wow.
So
put me to shame.
I just try to feed my brain, because I've always been very creative and then very much a student at the same time. And so I try to feed both sides of my brain so that the rest of the day is kind of taken care of.
That's good. Yeah, being intentional about being a student.
Trying to.
Yeah, that's good, man. Because, I feel like that's what makes people great anyway, is just always being a student. But you're I'm not just going to always be a student on spontaneous, in spontaneous things and moments. I'm going to set myself up with things challenging me every day.
Yeah. Yeah, no, blocking out time I think is really important, because we live in a, society's crazy with everything. You have to be busy 24/7, but usually it's with random frivolous things. And I feel like if you can create time for yourself to really, dive into the things that you're genuinely curious about and to learn new things and to engage your spirit, your emotions, and your mind, I think that sets you up for really balanced kind of equilibrium with God and with yourself and with others around you.
Yeah.
I do better when everything's filled and working.
Absolutely. So that's, for sure. And I want to ask you, what does it look like for you when you don't have that routine, when you don't have your morning time?
It's just, I feel like I'm more tired, oddly enough, because I'm such a big visionary person. If I don't have parameters to work in, my mind can just go weird places. And it's really difficult to recenter and find a spot where I feel focused and intentional and kind of have a footing, because it's not like staying busy is the point. That's not the point. I think for me it's that there's so much I can do, and if I feel like I am not doing certain things, then I feel kind of depleted because of that. So I try to just make sure that the things that maybe are upon my heart or what God's calling me to do in that season or whatever, that I'm blocking out time where I can be intentional about that. And if it's like that day, I'm like, I don't feel like learning Korean right now.
Yeah,
I don't have
exactly.
to. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like saying like, this is when I'm going to do that, I think just gives you more permission because you can see kind of how you're spending your time. So
Yeah.
I do find myself way less on my phone because of it.
That's good.
Which is nice, which was a byproduct of just enjoying the process of learning and doing other things.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
That's good. That makes me think about just like, we can be so random sometimes and we're just carried away by life, carried away by our phones and all these different things that it has to offer. There's so many different ways to go.
Yeah.
Like, there's like different streams offered to us, like, flow over here, go over here.
Right.
So yeah, really to be like the head of your day, the head of your
Sure.
time, head of your morning. I think that I've seen myself struggling with my phone time lately. I wish I could throw it in the trash, but I
think
need to.
everybody actually honestly does at the
Yeah.
same time.
You can tell it's making changes to you that you don't like, and it just steals. It doesn't steal just so much time, but it steals. It doles you out because you just see this, you see that, and there's so much different things you're looking at all day, every day. And you don't have the sharpness of your mind and your thinking and what you want to do when you're just constantly scrolling, being told how to feel. And I don't think you realize it, because I don't realize, I've heard a couple of pastors speak on it, you go through all these different emotions so fast.
Right.
I don't think about that because I don't really feel all these emotions.
Sure.
But you do.
Passive. Right. Yeah. No, it is weird. Because I mean, I honestly, when I do like scroll through Instagram or whatever, I try to ask myself, how much of what I just looked at do I remember? When I ask myself that, I'm like, oh no, I have 2 videos maybe, because that just goes to show like just how passive it is, and I feel like for me, when I can really question my own actions and I have an answer for it, it's a lot easier to be more critical about like just that little moments in life that really add up. So like even with friends that like have asked me like to keep them accountable too, I'm like, okay, do you remember from when you were scrolling? They're like, nothing. I'm like, that just says it all. I think when you're dedicating your time, like, it's different when it's like, okay, I'm just screaming passively, or if you're like, I want to learn about home decor. You know what I mean? Like you can still be intentional with what you're looking at. When you're focusing in on stuff, but it's so easy to go on a tangent, and like, I'm not saying that I don't myself, obviously, but just saying like there's definitely ways that you can equip yourself so that you're not always kind of falling victim to that. But it just takes intentionality. That's all. Yeah,
that's the word. I can tell, because that makes all the difference. I've just recently started seeing how cool like TikTok is with the intentionality of like it's a search engine just like Google.
Literally.
Like you search whatever, and like my girlfriend, she'll just search random things in TikTok, not on like Google. You have all these videos, all these different people, all these different resources right there. And so whatever you want to learn about. And so I've been doing that lately.
That's cool.
But I'm typically just whatever it throws.
Whatever it comes.
I've consumed maybe 200 videos today.
Wow.
Do I remember any of them? No.
Cool.
I actually don't. That's an issue.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about that.
So there you go. Now you got a new tool in your belt.
Yeah. Oh, no, for sure. Yeah.
Oh.
I use it as a form of escape, I think.
Really?
Sometimes. Or I feel like that's just how the enemy tries to take my time. Also, like, let's just waste all your time here and then cram in everything you have to do after you've already mindlessly just scrolled.
Yeah.
But I think I'll escape through it sometimes. You actually called me recently in a moment of escape for me because I was going through it. And actually, we haven't talked yet, but I'm doing a lot better. I'm actually doing great.
Good.
A lot of those things are resolved.
Good.
But in that moment, I was just so stressed and tired. Just like, keep going, trying to do what I can. But I was just tired. And so I'm just like scrolling on my phone. I'm on YouTube. And you were obedient. You just pray like, basically God, how would that moment go for you?
I was just in my room, like I had just finished packing up some boxes on my way to move, and I was just like, okay, I feel like God wants me to sit down, just kind of talk with him for a bit. So I just prayed, and I was like, Lord, how can I be of service to you right now? Is there anything that you want me to do? And like immediately, your name just popped in my head, and I was like, oh, that's odd. I don't know why, but okay. And I literally said that when I called you.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I was praying. I heard your name. I don't know why.
Exactly.
And you were like, well, I'm fine. And I'm like, okay.
I was like, I'm
and
good.
then, and then as we started talking, you were like, actually, and then you went on about the YouTube thing, and
yeah.
crazy.
But it's funny because just talking was really good for me in that moment,
Yeah.
and then it disrupted me, just scrolling. So I think sometimes like when God tells us to do something, we're waiting for like why, because
Right.
what's it really gonna be? Or like for me, I'll like wait for a word. He'll be like, call this person or tell this person. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And you might just call, but you're also expecting like, what do you want me to tell them? There must be a word
Right.
they need or something.
Right.
Nothing.
Nope.
I just needed to be disrupted and to talk to somebody.
Right. That's crazy. No, because it really was like, it was so random too, because been trying to practice more and more obedience without knowing, because I feel like when I'm asked questions or I'm talking with people, I usually have good answers, but then there's times where I'm like, I get prompted by something, but I'm like, but I don't know what I'm supposed to say, so I don't do it.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to practice like, okay, this is very clear. I'm supposed to do this. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to mean something to them. It's not about me in this moment. And I think that's why it was easy to just obey it, because I was like, well, it's strong, and I trust your character. I trust that you know how God works weirdly,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think that's what also helped, especially in that situation. So like, even for me, like that was building up my faith and like building up my ability to even hear God and to obey that call rather than just kind of dismiss it or be like, he's probably fine, he's probably busy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like everybody's got stuff going on all the time, and you just never know like what that little call could mean.
Exactly.
Even if it isn't necessarily huge impact, but disrupts, like you were saying, like it disrupted a cycle in that moment, and then brought to you like a new way of thinking and looking at things. So I'm like, yay, God.
It's not always over spiritual. God just like we forget. I think it's easy to forget just how he views us too. Like we're his children.
Right.
He just loves us. We're his children.
Yeah.
It's not always over spiritual. Sometimes it's just loving us, making us feel seen.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be this long extravagant thing that's, I think we make it this big thing sometimes in the church. It can be easy to do that.
Right.
But yeah, those little moments just mean something. I know for me, when I was first trying to like learning how to hear his voice and discern his voice, but then also like deliver a word for somebody, being obedient was tough. And it's like, before I go talk to that random stranger, like, can you give me more than just like, tell them what they're waiting on, it's coming. I was like, well, you're waiting. I want to know more than just that. Or like, tell them like, hold on.
Right.
I'm like, I don't know what hold on is going to mean to this random stranger I've never seen before. And obviously those are like, you think I would just trust that. Like, hold on sounds like a really good reminder for somebody or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was waiting for more, and then you would see how it would impact somebody.
Yeah.
Because only God knows their heart and what they're really going through.
For sure. And I mean, like a really tangible example of this is like, I went to a prayer meeting thing, and I saw this girl, her name's Hannah, and like, I just sensed like she just seemed really dope. Like I was just like, you just seem like a really dope person. And so I literally walked up to her, didn't know her name, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna call you cool girl. You're a cool girl. And like that's all I said. And she almost fell like crying. And I was like, why? and she later said like, my whole life, that's all I wanted to be called by my brother. Like I wanted to be known as the cool girl because he just wouldn't look at me.
Yeah.
And so I felt all this shame. And so for you to come and see that in me, specifically those words,
Right.
meant like a lot. And I was like, I just thought you were cool, But like it was prompted by like, I see you, you know what I mean? Like I think when you're able to see people and you're able to have that like connection of like, God, how can I say what I see in this person in a way that would not doesn't have to resonate. I think it just has to be true.
Yeah.
And like that was true. She's a really dope person. And I was just like, I'm gonna call you cool girl. And lo and behold, like that struck a chord, you know what I mean? And I think that just is little things like that can really mean a lot, because the more specific like you go, the more that can really touch people, even if it is a small thing. And so, you just never know. You just got to be obedient and trust it. And sometimes it may not land how you think it should, or it's supposed to leave them with like a whole revelation of like, oh, I now know the Lord. And it's like sometimes it's not that, but to leave an impression that people are able to see someone's heart, and that people who follow the Lord, like, they're not crazy psychos. You know what I mean? Like, because I feel like the church has done a really bad job. I don't often really like calling myself a Christian even sometimes, because I'm just like, I love Jesus. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
And I feel like people are way more open to that because the church has hurt so many of them. Because I've been working at this new restaurant, and I think there's probably like 2 believers. Like the whole thing, like there's like 160 people and stuff.
Wow.
And people are so broken and lost there, because it's all people who are trying to make it in film and music. Like, this is like their side job. And it's just crazy encountering people and trying to like just bring what I feel like God's put in my heart into that space. And so like my notorious question, how is your heart? When I ask people that, some of them have literally almost like fallen over. It's really bizarre. They're like, I've never thought about that. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
That's not great. But I want to present that opportunity to open that door, because I think when people can see themselves rightly, you bring a whole new sense of peace and humility, because there's not this striving anymore. You're just like being honest with where you are in that moment. Because I feel like, especially in like a restaurant space where everything's like, you're passing people all the time, we're all busy and like catering to the guests and whatever. How are you is not even a question. It's just a, how are you? Okay, how are you? Yeah, good.
Yeah, good,
okay, good. Yeah. It's passive. Cool. It's not. So then when I come across people, I look them like dead in the eye. How's your heart?
Yeah. Huh? My heart? Haven't thought about that in years or ever.
Right? And I think, again, it's small things like that, because we carry a presence that people sometimes have just never seen before. And I think you have to recognize the value of that and not belittle it. I think a lot of the time the church tries to be this like, oh, I'm so insignificant and oh, the Lord is everything. We have been given the power of God.
Come on, yeah.
Okay, so let's do something about that. You know, like let's walk in confidence and walk in, identity. Yeah. Like, I have this to offer you.
Exactly.
And if
you are the light of the world, is what Jesus said.
Literally, I want to put you on the hill, like, so everyone can see. Don't put a thing over it. Like, that's not what a light does. It shines and it casts shadows. It shows people where the darkness is. Yeah. Which I think a lot of people sometimes forget.
Wow.
Sometimes when you have that light shining on, it actually makes the shadows a lot more sharp. And so you can see them more clearly, and you can step into those places and bring the light into those little nooks where people maybe have neglected themselves, neglected others, whether it's like societal nooks, whatever. Like, when you bring that in, it's way easier to discern because you've been given the ability to search and see in people's hearts and in people's spirits. And, like, I try not to be hypercritical of people, because I really feel like I've been given a gift of discernment to like see people immediately and know their heart.
That can be tough to navigate.
It can be, because
we're gonna have to come back to that one too.
Because I'm like, I don't want to come off as like judgmental, like you're so self-righteous. Like, no, I don't want to say that, but what I can say is, in your family, did you feel like you always had to be right? Did you always have to feel like you were perfect? So it's like there's a way of like coming up with those things while also discerning like there is some bad stuff in people, but to be able to go to the source of where that may be coming from and get them just thinking of like why they may be acting or being the way that they are is important.
That's what it's about. Yeah, because so you're not just seeing the fruit that they're producing. You're like, where's that fruit coming from?
Yeah.
There's a root there that's like making that happen.
Exactly.
And so God gives you the gift to be able to see it, discern it, but also have the curiosity to trace back for the root.
Right.
Which is actually something that I feel like I resonate with a lot. And I even love doing that with scripture.
Well,
I like just asking questions to scripture or seeing the heart behind it or going way deeper with it. Where does this really come from? And, you know, and I think that's what we should all do.
Yeah, that's cool.
But to go back to that light of the world thing, you know, when you're the light, you also cast shadows, you know, or shadows are created. So it's more obvious where there's darkness because of your light. And we do downplay it, and we do look around like, who's going to do something about this?
Right.
Us.
Right.
We should be. You know, where's God at right now?
Yeah.
With you.
Right.
You know, why is God not helping this person?
Right.
He's in you, and you're seeing that person needs help. Why are you not doing anything about it? We have the power of God. We have His Holy Spirit within us. We have His love. So not just our human, I just want to love in you, but like God's love can be felt through us.
Sure.
For a person.
Yeah, no, 100%. Because it's a balance of not being then in turn self-righteous.
Exactly.
And being like, what I have is better than anything you could. Like, it's not that. It's just this heart posture of how can I be of service?
Exactly.
You know, and like not you're not dismissing, but you're not also putting pressure on yourself to do everything and anything at any given moment. It's like, how can I be available here right now?
Because you're not God.
Yes. No, thank you. That's a lot of pressure. But I do carry what God has for that person and what He has for me, you know? And I think that's also a thing too, is that people sometimes focus so much on others, they neglect themselves. And so you're operating from a place of lack, not a place of overflow. Like, we've been given a God who wants to provide and over provide for us in terms of not just like materialistic things. I'm talking about your spirit. I'm talking about joy, fruits of the spirit, pretty much. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, justice, self-control. Like, all these things He wants us to have in abundance. And so if you're coming from a place of, I was never cared for, so I'm going to care for others, already you failed.
Yeah.
Because you're coming from a place of neglect, you're coming from a place of fear, rejection, all these things. And so wherever the thing is coming out, like wherever that intention is coming from, it is felt. And so I've like come across people like, you know, they're like, I'm always giving my time. I'm always being so kind. I'm always doing this. I'm like, the fact that you're upset that people can't see that you're being kind tells me that you expect something in return. Yeah. That's not kindness.
You might not be in the place to be giving the way you're giving.
Right. Yeah. Right. Because kindness is good, but kindness is not transactional. Kindness is from a place of grace and mercy. There's no give back.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? And so if you're giving from a place of can I get back, then you're kind of, you know, defeating the whole purpose of what it means to love well.
Well, even that shows that there's something that you wish you were receiving.
Sure.
And so you're trying to give because you're trying to receive realistically.
Maybe that exact thing.
Exactly. So I'm going to give this because I really want this back.
Right.
But you need to give that to yourself.
Right.
Or seek the source. You need to seek God and have Him give that to you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're walking around, you're mad at you're resenting people. Right. Because they're not giving you something you want, but it's not their responsibility.
No. I mean, God was really kind and people killed Him.
Exactly.
Let's be honest.
He was wonderful.
That's not usually the reaction you want from being nice, but He didn't expect people. I mean, he didn't expect people to do anything for Him. Yeah. You know, because that wasn't where He was coming from. He knew His value. He knew what He was bringing to the table. He knew what He was standing for, and that was enough. And I feel like if you can get into that space, and again, like we all fall short, I fall short all the time, like of really being able to live truthfully in that truth. Yeah. But I think the more that you proclaim that and the more that you use your mouth to speak those words, like I am loved, I am enough, I am in God, I am His son, daughter. When you start believing that and you're verbalizing it, your emotions follow. Yeah. I really believe that is like, you can say like, you're in the midst of, I can't pay rent, I don't have a job, nothing's going well, I don't have community. I'm loved, I am worthy, I will be provided with all the things that I need for this next season. And when you proclaim that faithfulness, it sets your heart in line with God. And He can do anything when your heart is in line with that.
Absolutely.
You know?
That's so good. There's so much good going on right now. Even with that is like all those situations in life can offer you they don't just offer you the bad situation, but it offers you the emotions to go along with it. So you need to pay rent. So here's fear also.
Right.
You know, this thing is happening. So here's anxiety.
Right.
Here's anger.
Right.
And then you become that emotion. So I'm not just feeling it. Now I'm becoming it. So now I just am angry.
Right.
Now I just am resentful, fearful, etc. And so to remind yourself what you're saying is, no, I am this. I am that. You know, I am patient. I am hopeful that God can do something is huge, because we start to feel and then become all these other things that are happening in our lives. And that's so powerful. And I think there's just so like I think sometimes we'll underestimate doing that, or we'll think like, oh no, that's weird. I'm not gonna stand in a mirror and be like, I am loved, I am light. But really, you're rewiring your mind, because all of our lives we are becoming different things, feeling different things. And we get so far from that place of what you talked about. How's your heart? Well, I have no clue. Because I haven't looked at my heart in so long. And if I did, it would scare me. Because I hardly know who I am right now. And so how are you doing? Good. You don't have time for the long answer, because I've experienced so much day in and day out. I couldn't even tell you how I truly am. And I definitely can't tell you how my heart is. And so there's so many broken people like you're talking about who are just lost and confused. And even those simple things like what you're saying, remind yourself who you truly are. And if you don't know who you truly are, God will reveal that to you. And he gives you balance. He gives you truth. He gives you things to hold on to. He has things that he says about us and that he knows about us that can wash over our minds in the same way.
Right, for sure. Yeah, I mean, the word, the tongue, I really believe it's like a weapon. I mean, literally God spoke the universe into existence.
Absolutely.
That's pretty powerful. Yeah. You know, even I heard this thing that the rabbis back in the day, during Jesus' time, they said that like when you speak a word, it goes on forever. Like whenever it goes out, it's a straight shot. It's still going. The only way to sever it is if you break it off. So those words that you're professing, because like when we are in a line with God, our words operate in a completely different way than from the world. If you're someone that's in the world, you don't know God at all, you don't know his character, you don't know you're loved by an almighty Father, then it doesn't apply to you. But once you have given your life to the Lord, your life becomes a whole new blueprint that is wired between here on this earth and the heavens.
Yeah.
And so when you're in that state and when you're in that position, your words become so much more powerful because they're tied to eternity.
Yeah.
And so how you speak of yourself, speak of others, speak of the world around you. Like there's so many people in LA, like, oh, this city's so hard. Everything's so difficult. You know, like everyone's a shark. If you keep saying that, then that will keep happening because you're making it the truth that you're living by.
Exactly.
But if you say, this city is difficult, but God is greater than this city, and you believe that, then you're going to see so many different things. You're going to see the opportunities that he's presenting, not the ones that like, I need to get that agent. I need to get that opportunity. You're not looking, you're not striving. You're operating again from this place of overflow because you know what you're operating in. Yeah. And that's I think the biggest thing, because this city is incredible. I think it's amazing. The people that come here,
it is really
like there's so much beauty in the people, like people's hearts. Like although that may be a lot of darkness and people have gone through a lot of things, like if you really look at the source of everybody, like everybody has the capacity for bad things, but at the end of the day, like we're all designed in God's image. Like
exactly, yeah.
And if you can recognize that and you operate again from that place of intentionality and everything, like your worldview just changes.
Yeah. So what you're saying, you start seeing because you're saying this thing, then you're believing this thing, and then you're watching out for that thing. Right. Unknowingly. I feel like that's like a passive, what would that be? That's like an unintentional way of doing it. Is if you paid attention to what you're saying, you would start believing that thing and start looking for it also. Sure. But unintentionally, you're still wired that same way. Yeah. So you're saying it, you're believing it, you're seeing it. Right. And so now you're seeing negative because you're saying negative, you're believing it's going to be negative, and it just is negative. Yeah. And some people don't want to hear that because like, no, things just suck. It just is negative. But maybe you've been thinking negative for so long
Right.
and you don't even know how to think positive.
Right.
There's some people out there who just don't even know how to turn that corner. But that's really what it is. I think if we would start saying things different, talking to ourselves different, talking about things different that we're going through, you know, just like this person is so bad. This person's this, that, and the other. This person offers their challenges for sure. This person is different. You know, just even little things like that lightens up your speech and your perspective about things. I think that's so important.
No, it is.
Yeah.
It is, for sure.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about, so you mentioned LA as well. Did you grow up here?
So I was born in England. And for those who haven't been able to see, I have an accent. I was born in Brighton.
Let's talk about the accent because aren't you one of the only siblings that maintain their accent?
Yes, so I'm one of four, and I'm the oldest, and all my other siblings are American. So it's a very strange thing when we're introduced to new people as a family, because I'm like, hello, my name's Asher, and then all of them are like, hi, I'm Caleb, hi, I'm Peniel, hi, I'm Zoe. It's like completely different speech. But yeah, it's really, it's hilarious. But I was born in Brighton, right on the south coast, on the beach.
Born on the beach.
Born on the beach. Well, beach,
in the
quote
sand.
unquote. Yeah, it's the rocks and brown water.
The rocks. There's a hospital close by. You could have probably done that.
Yeah, exactly. It was our version of what a beach looks like.
Amazing.
And then we, as a family, me, my brother, and then my parents moved to LA when I was just about to turn 6, and then for the next 6 years. We were homeschooled, and so that's hence why I retained my accent, because I was around my parents the whole time. Versus like my brother, who was 2 when we moved, like he learned all his English in the States, and so that's how that happened.
How long were your parents in England?
Pretty much their whole lives. Like, I mean, my dad, he was born in London, and then when he was about 7, he moved to Nigeria, which is where his parents were from.
Okay.
And was there for a lot of schooling, and then came back to the UK for drama school. And so then my mum, she was born in Suffolk, which is right on the east coast of England, on the countryside, literally like a village. It's like when you think of an English village, that's where she was.
That's amazing.
And she ended up moving to London as well for drama school, and that's how they ended up meeting. So I think we moved when they were about, I want to say like 28, 27, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, I think.
That's amazing. Wow, young parents.
Yeah, they were obedient though. That was not their choice.
It was like God calling them.
to come here, because that was 2008.
Okay.
Worst year to do that, because economic crash and everything.
Yes.
And I think at the time there was a writer's strike. So
really?
there was no work. And so like the first 2 weeks that we were in LA, we didn't have any furniture. I was sleeping on the floor. So like it was we had nothing while we were there. Like our shipment for all our furniture and everything was really, really late. And then there was like no work. And so it was just a bizarre time, and I felt super uprooted because I was just starting life to get very comfortable in England and everything, and had my friends, everything, and all of a sudden my parents were like, okay, we're moving to America. And I'm like, what's America? Like, why are we going there? Like, everything's here.
Yeah.
And so it was very, very difficult. Like, the cultural shock was pretty immense. And adjusting to it was just, like, really difficult.
What anchored you through that time? What started to help you get roots and settle you here?
Creativity, arts. I started drawing when I was like 3, and because I had nothing else to do.
I mean, slow down. I'm 3. I'm just gonna become an artist right now. Everybody else is like barely walking well and talking. And
I started drawing. Yeah, I started drawing pretty young, and
hopefully you're walking well at 3. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Just got really creative with a bunch of things. That's when I started getting like the huge like Lego brick things at the time. And then like through my whole childhood, like I've just always been creating my own worlds. And that's actually, I found music through Lego. Really?
Yes. So what happened was I was at 11 convinced I was going to be a master builder and work at Lego HQ. Like that was my
dream.
Yeah. Dream of dreams. And I would just always be building like bionic arms, whole like battle scenarios and like crazy creatures, everything like that. And one day I came across my mum's MacBook and went on there and saw GarageBand. I was like, huh, what is this? And I went into like the loop section. For those that don't know, like it's you just have a bank of sounds and loops essentially that you can just drag and drop. And I was like, oh, you can build a song? Because like visually it looked like Lego to me. Wow. And so my mind switched to being able to build songs. And so I just went from there. And so at 11, I started producing. And then 14 started writing, 16 singing. And so put it all together. And
you're a whole artist.
I'm the whole artist.
Full-blown artist. Yeah. Wow. That's so cool, actually, just to see like how you saw it, how God showed you that. Yeah. It's like he led you to music through Legos. I always think like how he gets us to these different places because there's always some sort of a hint in our lives like to get us to the place.
Yeah.
I know for me, I think it was multiple things, but I just think about like teaching dance, which is something that I thought I was going to just keep doing forever. That's all I wanted to do. And that's how I got out here. Yeah. Is because I loved teaching dance and choreography, and I was very confident in it. I loved teaching like, you know, all the kids and all the adults just like hip hop and dance through my eyes, like how God had shown me it. And coming out here, then I didn't even speak yet. I wasn't like trying to teach scripture or tell you my testimony or anything at all. But like just to see how like, and then music, like I fell in love with music out here. And like 2019, God had me randomly write a song when I was just having like some God time. This tune came into my head, and I remember the way that I wrote the tune out is like, you know, like when your voice goes, you know, high and low, and like when you're doing a run, I was writing it on paper in like a zigzag form, like, and then it goes down here, like just to try and remember the tune, like wrote out all the lyrics, and like just all those different ways of communication just started developing, you know, through film and photography, having a vision, being intentional about it, and then sharing the vision, and then like speaking, like sharing that way, and teaching dance. So it was always communication that like somehow just found its way.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
I love the way that you said building a song. That's fun.
I mean, if you think about it, like you have your standard structures and everything of like verse, pre, chorus, and then you have a bridge in there somewhere, tagline. Like it's all these things. Like there's so many ways to build out a song, and you know, I really love seeing how there's so many different ways for different genres, different feels, different tempos, keys. Like there's so many variables that make music so infinite. Yeah, you know, in the same way that, you know, like, because I like this analogy of how, you know, like a Lego brick on its own is pretty useless. It doesn't have much worth. But then when you pair it with other things to build out a whole structure, then it becomes incredibly important. You know, and I feel like it's the same thing for music. It's the same thing for people, like how we are as a people. You know, like although what I have to offer may not seem significant, in the grand scheme of all of us together, I play a massive role. Yeah. And I think it's really important to recognize that. And that's how I always approach like building out songs, how I approach building community. Like nobody is invaluable. Everybody, like even if you're a janitor or a billionaire, same value. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Just different roles. Just how we play, you know, in the body of Christ. Like, exactly. I mean, it's the biggest thing. Like you have a fingernail and then you have the eye. Yeah, okay. The eye can see a lot of stuff, but the fingernail actually protects you from a lot of things, like from damaging your finger. Exactly. You know, and I think it's important to just, again, like put things into perspective and not minimize like our worth and our identity and how God may see us versus how people may have impressed on us a sense of being undervalued or not being enough. Again, like, and I'm kind of speaking out of experience and being able to kind of rewire my brain to be able to come from a place of, again, like abundance. So
yeah, no, it's so easy to put certain things on a pedestal, especially I guess in society, because we will glamorize or like glorify different things. Like this is it. This is what this it looks is the good like. Thing. This is what it looks like. You know, if it's not this, you know, it just ain't good. Right, you know, right. I love that. That's a good. Everybody offers something that they can serve, that they can share, and we have to see the value in that for sure. I love that. One of the greatest producing tips that you gave me allowed me to keep just being creative for as long as possible with a song.
Yeah.
With a song, and then like go back to, okay, this is what needs to stay.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So you told me, I was like, how do you know when like a song is done? And you said when there's nothing left to strip.
Yes.
And so I just kept adding all the different sounds that I hear, because for me, like what it really is just melodies, like just easily just come to me no matter what.
Yeah.
And then I struggle with like the drums sometimes, like trying to figure out how, like what drums sound the best, how to do it, and all the other little stuff. But like the melodies for sure. And then I'm learning like, okay, this melody can go here in piano form, this can go in bass form, this can go in 808 form. So you can place the melodies in places, and then you can like, okay, that doesn't need to be there, and you can take little things out so that it all just flows. And yeah, I like that.
That's
so
awesome.
like, when do you know like for you, what's that process like? How you build a song?
Yeah, I mean, so because I was a producer first, I always like produce out a track, because usually that's where my emotions go. I don't know why. Like I grew up listening to a lot of scores, like film scores, and the biggest moment I think for me was when Daft Punk did the Tron Legacy score. I was like, dance music as a score? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So like that changed my whole life. It was amazing. So I always approach things from a cinematic place of trying to build out an entire story sonically before I even put words, because I feel like you can have a great song, but the production doesn't complement that story. And I find it's a lot harder to write a song and then make production that really upholds those lyrics, for me personally.
Yeah.
Because I'm a lot more technical with my production, so I can create that story a lot more fluidly for me. So usually produce it first, then I'd go through melodies and words that stand out or concepts. Like I always kind of think of like, what if I were to have a still frame of what the climactic moment of the song looks like, what does it look like? And write from that place of like, what does that visual feel like? What does it emote? What does it say? What are we left with? And I think when I do that, it becomes a lot easier to just see the whole thing. And so I can go through it. Sometimes, like there's this one song I've been working on for 3 years.
Wow.
And then there was a song the other day I finished in 2 hours. You know, like it's like.
Do I know the song you've been
different.
working on for 3 years?
I don't know if I've shown you I probably have shown you the demo version of it, but it's like I haven't been able to know like what it does need to say, because it is so specific in terms of the feeling that it gives, and it has so much conceptual potential.
Yeah.
But it has to be perfect. Like that. Like that's the thing. It has to fit so well for it to actually complement how great I think the song is gonna be.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I'm not rushing that one. Like I'm just gonna let it take its time, and when it lands, it's gonna land, and I'll know.
That's great. I've known you since before you dropped your first song.
Yes.
Is that right?
I think so. Before Go Backwards.
For sure.
Yeah. That was
your first song.
I think it was my first released song. Yeah.
That's crazy to think about. So yeah, because but since I've known you, you were obviously always making music.
Yeah.
So I remember you sending me those files. I get so excited because I was just freshly like embracing producing as being a thing, because that's something that I didn't just want to do. I also felt like called to do, and it really came out through like worship songs, like just writing worship songs like crazy. Like I have like, I don't know, a lot of worship songs on my phone, a lot of other songs on my phone, like albums of just songs that could be cool to build one day. And I've always been slow to just step into that. But I think there's also times to everything. Like I'm sure there'll be a season where I'm just locked in the cave of just music. Exactly. But I would sit with you and just see these songs and how they build. That's what I loved, is how they would take you on a journey. They would build it to be a whole story. It was very cinematic. So it's cool to hear you say that, because that's how I would describe your style too. Is it's a cinematic experience, you know, realistically. So yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that was your first song. That is, yeah.
My first released song. But it's like, I feel like the past music I've been releasing has all been pointing towards where I really want my sonic palette to be, and I found it. Like I've got like dude, I'm telling you. The next song, dude, it's stupid.
You're like, this is me?
Bro, it's like, it's the epitome of what I've been trying to do. And it just took so long to get, well, not so long, but it took a long time to really be able to verbalize and specify this is what it sounds like, you know? Because I think, because my
You're
branch,
trying to find it?
Yeah, because like, my branch is like dark pop and R&B. Like that's what I would describe it as. And like the first songs I was releasing, it was all very Afrobeat because I just wanted to commemorate my Nigerian roots, half Nigerian, half English. I felt like that was important. And then I wanted to play around with like, okay, well, how pop can I go before it feels like cheesy and weird? And then I went to that place. And then now I found this really awesome pocket where I'm like, I know how to make the songs that I've been imagining my whole life, you know?
Do you have an example on your phone for after this podcast?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll be listening. That is crazy. That makes me so excited too.
Yeah, man.
Because I've definitely seen that diversity unfold too, which is cool.
Yeah.
You talked about being a producer. So when did you turn into like more of the artist?
I would say when I was like just about to turn 17, because when I started producing, everything was very influenced through dance music and film scores. So I was coming from a perspective of making pretty much only production heavy music.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of what I thought I was going to do. I actually went by Yelo Beats on SoundCloud. So I'd release, like, I probably released like 100 tracks on SoundCloud for like 3 years, something like that. They were terrible. Like back then, bro, I would put reverb on basses.
See, I need to go. I need to go listen to some of those to encourage myself.
Yes, dude, I'll show you. I mean, even like my voice, like because sometimes what I do is I go back, like, okay, it's October 30th. What did I do October 30th, 2020?
Yeah,
and like whatever was close to that date, and I'm seeing the difference. I'm like, what? That's insane. You know what I mean? Like being able to like go in hindsight and see it is really wild. And so like after my years of just like solidifying myself as a producer, I was like, well, I feel like I can make some songs where you can write some stuff like that. So I started writing and just like looking at writers and diving more like in terms of listening into pop, R&B, Afrobeat, even international genres like reggaeton and K-pop and stuff like that, like random stuff, just to get a sense of like, okay, what's a song? Like, how do I make a full song? And so I was just writing, and I was just doing that passively while kind of being pretty avid about production. And then at 16, I was like, wait, why am I not singing the songs I'm writing?
Yeah, exactly.
I sing. I like didn't piece it together. I'm like, oh, I can produce for myself. Okay.
Have you always sang?
I've always wanted to, but I was in the midst of a lot of puberty. So
It's not time.
So was a lot of the time. I really wanted to, but I just didn't know how. I didn't know how to use my voice. And so I just was like, well, there's only one way to find out. So I just started trying to sing the songs that I write and how to create that. And oh my goodness, it's hilarious. Like listening back and just like no power, no technique,
That's hilarious.
no ability to access the different registers.
Technique is something I've been noticing is like really like it's actually a tool to know how to use your voice. You don't just know how to sing just because you have a decent voice.
No, you can have a great tone and not know how to use it. You know, I mean, I had a great like speaking tone, and so I felt like I could utilize that in a way. So I stayed usually in a lower register. So it meant whenever I tried to go high, it just did not work.
Okay.
And so for like from 16 to 19, I was just recording constantly. I was doing covers. I was doing songs that are completely out of my comfort zone. Just so I can see like, how can I replicate? What things can I take? What styles do I like vocally? And it all kind of came together, because I get the question of like, who like taught you how to sing and stuff? I'm like, life, music. It just I found it, you know, literally, because I've taken maybe in my whole life probably like 10 vocal classes.
Wow. That's crazy.
Like as in like an hour class. So like most of it has all been self-taught.
10 hours of teaching, and then you put in your 10,000 hours.
Yes, exactly. And because I just felt like people, they couldn't understand my voice.
Yeah.
Because it's like, all right, la, and you have to do that. Or it was like, la, 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 la. Like, it was so boring to me. I was like, I need to like enjoy this. I wanna try songs that are completely irrelevant to where I am, so that when I, create for stuff of my own, I'm using tools from these other songs so that I can create things that are more interesting and have movement. And so I started studying melody. I started studying the greats of pop and R&B and how structures work and how, even like, I'm so technical, like even like your starting note to your end note in a pre-chorus, like where does it land? How do you move into the next part? And I just was doing that, and I guess it worked. And like, it just kind of came together from a place of purely curiosity. Like, honestly, it wasn't even a thing of like, I'm gonna be an artist. It was like, I'm fascinated by how this works and how everything feeds off of each other. Because like, you can have great production, but no space for a vocal. And that's what a lot of producers actually struggle with.
I learned that like 6 months ago.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a tough lesson because you want, as a producer, to do as many cool things as you can, but it's like, at what point does it jeopardize being able to tell a story? You know, and that's a tough balance. I think that's also a difference between a beat maker and a producer. Beat maker makes beats.
Exactly.
They just make the thing and send it off, and you can do whatever. But a producer caters to the artist, caters to a voice, caters to writing. And it's a way more intentional way of building a song. And that's what I wanted to do. Yeah. And so studying that and being very intentional with how, one approaches music is like, it's a beast. It's pretty difficult. But when you do it from a place of pure just joy, like, and you genuinely love it, it's not work. It's just fun.
Seems like your heart is heavy on the producing side. Like, and I know you have your own artist career also, but do you see yourself just always doing both, like producing for other artists and helping them out find their sound and different things?
Yeah. Because even now, like I produce and write for labels, and actually the reason why I'm learning Korean is because I work in K-pop. So for the past 10 months, I've been producing and writing for K-pop bands in Korea.
Really? That's amazing.
Yeah.
We got to catch up on that. That's amazing. You mentioned the greats of pop that you had studied. Your management happens to have worked with the king of pop.
Yes, Mr. Quincy Jones. Yes, he's a cool guy.
It's not a bad manager to have if you're going to do music.
This is true. There's a lot of incredible people that I've been fortunate to be surrounded by. Like, the first time, backtrack. So I was nominated for this award in Sweden called the Dennis Pop Awards, which is manned by Max Martin, who's like one of the greatest producers of all time. He has like over 40 number ones. And wow, it says it all. Like, he's probably he has like, the thing that everybody talks about is like, he has made the soundtrack to millions of people's lives. Wow. And so it was amazing because like that whole thing, it was in Sweden, flew over there, got to meet like so many incredible people. And some of the people that I met were like some producers that work in K-pop. And at the time I was like, I would love to work in K-pop. Don't know how that would happen, but it sounds cool. I went to a BTS concert. I was like, I have to. And then just started messing around, and then go to Sweden, meet these people. And they're like, hey, would you want to like help us out? We need a top line and a writer for K-pop stuff. And I was like, yes.
Exactly. I guess so.
Yeah, I guess that's cool. And so it just started there, and dude, I've made probably I've over like 100 songs, like already, like pitching them out and trying to see where they can land. But yeah, man, it's exciting.
Goodness, keep me updated on that journey.
Yes, I love K-pop.
That is incredible. What's something you're the most proud of with what you've been able to create? Let's just say the past 5 years. Actually, no, let's say the past 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
Let's go more recent. So, like more just in that bag of like, okay, I am a producer, I am an artist. I'm not just figuring this out, and I'm really proud of this thing I created, or I'm proud of the growth that I experienced while creating it?
That's a good question. Well, there's a song that I have well, not recently made, but like I made probably, I want to say 6 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, it would be so stupid to release this without a plan because it's so good. It like this is not something you're like, hey, another single. This is like,
Yeah.
this is that song.
And by the way, for the audience, when he says that, it's true. Like he's never, if he's ever told me it's because it's so good, it's absolutely that good. It's not just overconfidence.
No, thank you. Because yeah, I mean, a lot of the time, like there's music I've released that I'm like, it's all right, it's good, but then to other people, it's like, this is amazing. I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like this is it's new, so it's cool. But like there's certain songs I'm like, this is gonna change someone's life.
Exactly.
And I'm like, this is incredible. Like the way that it moves, the way that it's sonically just so rich, and like the storytelling is just really good.
Yeah.
And it's so honest. And that's the thing for me is like I sometimes struggle to put full vulnerability in songs without it being relatable. Because I have a very weird life. And so my life is so bizarre. And so it's really difficult sometimes to verbalize the things I feel, and put them in a place that people can also relate to. And so I feel like with this song, although it is specific and sometimes in some senses vague, it is like a really, really heart-wrenching thing that I think is really true to my experience and things. And so that makes me excited that I've been able to really steward my pen and being able to write something that's really, really honest. I think it's honorable to God. It's honorable to those around me. And that's like the biggest thing. So, I mean, learning that it's possible to fully put myself and what I am into a song is huge. And that was the song that ignited and like showed me that this is the sound that I want to do.
Yeah. Dude, you're such a good example of that verse in First Timothy about let no one look down on you because you're young. But also to be an example in speech and in action. And so it's like, don't let anybody look down on you because you're young. Like you got something, but also like set an example. Like it's cool because you have depth. It's not like you're like super young. I'm just saying, like, for those listening, they might be shocked at all that have been able to accomplish at your age. And like, where does some of that depth come from? Is that like, how do you realize it? You understand?
I mean, I know I'm quite a weirdo in the sense that I operate from a very different place. And like, yeah, for those who don't know, I'm 22, and I just think life taught me a lot, and I was willing to learn from it. That was the biggest thing.
Willing to learn from it.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the time people go through life and they're like, okay, well, that sucked, moving on. I'm like, no, wait, something's here. Something here I can learn from.
Yeah.
And I think it all comes down to character. Like, I really believe character is built when you are still the same person when no one is looking. That's what character is. It's not the outward, integrity. It's the inward. Yes, exactly. And so an example of this is when I was 15, I was doing an Easter reading at church, and just like casual, just in my suit, and at the time my hair was so tall.
I've seen a picture.
It was like it's out of frame.
What inspired that haircut? I didn't know you had that toy.
I'm just so cool.
That's what it was?
I'm such a cool guy, and my hair can do it.
My hair can do it, yeah.
Yours can't. And I was just on that stage just doing this Easter service, and in the crowd there was a modeling scout. And they were like, would you want to model? And I was like, okay. Wasn't even looking for it. I was just there. I was on stage. And then I ended up getting signed to one of the biggest agencies, Next Models, and I got signed to Worldwide, so I was all over the place. Like, my first ever gig was 2 runways for Dolce & Gabbana in Milan.
So you really had a long time of just building up your modeling career.
Yeah, it was a pretty slow burn of 6 months.
Shoots. Yeah, oh man, what a tiring journey.
It was a lot of work, but it was such a shock. It was crazy. I think that the modeling world is the darkest side of entertainment by far.
Wow, yeah.
By far. It's all to do with this.
And you've seen multiple sides of entertainment.
I've seen a lot.
Exactly.
I've been all around the film industry, music industry, every side. And so to see that at 16 was pretty crazy. You know, like, because for me, at the time, like, it was so new and so fresh seeing all these people, like, and there was this after party after my 2 shows in New York, and, like, I kid you not, viewer discretion is advised. There was someone having sex here, someone doing cocaine here, and I'm the 16-year-old kid sitting here like, so God, what do you want to teach me? But also, that was traumatizing. It was quite a lot for me to observe, and then to also go back to normal life, go back to school, go back to my friends, and being like, hey, like, I'm really struggling with this. Like, it was just so bizarre and so difficult. And then all the guys are like, I wish that was that. And I'm like, okay. And then all the girls are like, oh my gosh, well, you're so cool. And it's like, I had no comfort or no safe place because I didn't want to make my parents feel like they were putting me in a dangerous situation, because it wasn't them. Yeah. And it wasn't me. It was just like the industry. Well, it just happened, yeah. It just happened. And there were so many incidences and really close calls with, like, really, really terrible situations while I was doing that at such a young age. But through and through, I learned how much I value my character and how much I value what I have to bring in any sphere. So my character was constantly tested, and God could trust me with more and more and more. And that was hard. It was difficult, and the aftermath of it was pretty hard as well. But I learned that I have integrity, true integrity. It's not just me saying, like, I stand for this and I stand for that, and, like, I love everybody. It's like I had to live it through and through if I was going to make it through all that weirdness, while also balancing out a normal life at school, while also wanting to become a musician, while also being a good brother, while also being a good friend. Like, there's all these different things that I was putting my foot in. And it was a tough balance, but I knew that undeniably I was the same person when no one was looking and when everyone could see me. And I think that was huge just to know about myself. Because again, like, I'm not an egotistical person. Like, anybody who's listening to this is me just being honest. Because, like, I think it's really important. There's a lot of kind, good people out there who don't see themselves in the way that they truly are. And I think it's important to say, like, no, this is actually who I am. It's not a bad thing to know who you are. I just want to say that because I think it's important to recognize, again, like, your value and where you feel like you may be devaluing yourself. Yeah. Because there's still ways that I'm not totally, like, you know, secure in. There's things that I'm still figuring out. And there's things that I'm still like, but really? Like, my biggest thing is earning love. I feel like I have to earn God's love all the time. Yeah. Because as the oldest sibling, I always have to be this, like, perfect example of what it looks like to live a good life and everything. And so that became this thing of, like, okay, well, then if I mess up or I fail, then I'm not worthy of, like, actually being cared for, because I'm supposed to be the one that's caring for them. You know what I mean? And that's a very bad way to live. It's not good. It's not healthy. And it's not your responsibility.
It's not fair.
No.
Because that weight shouldn't be on you.
No. And, like, and, you know, this is a longer story, but, you know, because of my parents' work, they were busy a lot. So I had to grow up really fast, especially moving to the States. Yeah. The whole new thing. Like,
still busy.
Yeah, still busy.
Which is a blessing.
I know, which is amazing. But I was raised by adults. So I didn't really have a childhood. I didn't really have the opportunity to just be a kid. So that built up a lot of resentment, I think, towards my parents and towards even my siblings, because they were able to be kids. Yeah. And I wasn't. You know? And that was a difficult thing, because it wasn't that someone was telling me you're not allowed. It's that it felt like life wouldn't permit me, because if I slacked off or I let myself have a weak moment, everything would crumble down and everything would be terrible, which wasn't true, but I was a kid. Yeah. You know? Wow. And so I think you have to face those things very truthfully, because it's not a bad thing to recognize that pain and be like, this is honestly what I felt. Probably wasn't the absolute truth of what was happening around me. It's just in the maturity that I had at that moment, this felt very real. And you have to confront it as it was and as at face value, you know? And I think the more you practice that, the more that you come across situations in life in the present moment that you can articulate way better, and you're not coming from just an emotional place. Because I think even if you think about like 10 years ago, I felt like this girl punched me in the arm and I could never forgive women anymore because all they do is hurt men.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. When in reality, the probably situation was she probably just bumped me while walking past me. You know what I mean? There's memories we have that are tied to an emotion because we may have been going through a thing of neglect, may have been going through a moment where we're feeling like a victim. So everything in that time felt like an attack.
Yeah.
So you deal with it like it was an attack so that when stuff happens in the present, it doesn't become that 10 years later again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really important about articulations. You have to go through your whole life and see like all the stuff. A lot of it comes from when you're a kid. And just being able to be like emotionally in that time, that's what I felt. And it was very real.
Yeah.
I'm going to comfort that kid. You know what I mean? So, yes.
So good. That's where the depth comes from. Makes a lot of sense. Being kind of forced to grow up fast through life, through situations.
Yes.
I like how you mentioned even the resentment thing, how you were aware enough to like know that you were being forced into this way of being that you might not have been ready for and that it wasn't fair for you. And so even the resentment that comes with it, but not only forced to grow up fast, but also processing as you go. I think it's so important for us to process as you go.
Right.
Don't just live it, experience it, let it happen to you, but like to process as you go, because I think that we just don't even know who we are, why we are, where we are. Yeah. Because so much just happens all the time.
Right.
And we just get hit all the time.
Right.
And so we have to be still enough to do that.
Yeah.
It's an interesting picture I got with the traumatizing thing that you mentioned. It's traumatizing to see those things young. And I mentioned things that I saw upon getting to LA young, and I would even say it forced me to grow up or be a man quicker than I might have been ready to, because I moved out here at 19, and you know, you're technically an adult and a man, but 19 in a city like LA with it's absolute no supervision, no covering. I don't suggest anybody move out at 18 or 19. You don't need to be running this city by yourself. And the things we saw at different house parties or late at night in Hollywood. Very dark world, very dark world. And I would even say that, I'm like, I think I grew up a little fast based off of things that I was exposed to. But I've never seen it as traumatizing.
No, it is.
And in your case, what made it traumatizing to me, if I was that age, would be seeing people so given and seeing people give themselves so freely and overindulging in sin like that.
Right.
To the point where there's people around and there's just no shame.
I know.
Like you're completely disconnected.
That was the weirdest thing. I was like, the audacity that even in front of like, because they're even coworkers. Like the people who are running those like runway shows were right there.
Wow, yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's such a crazy culture in that side of entertainment. And so yeah, it was quite a shock. You know, but I feel like, again, we can't be people who follow the Lord and not be aware of what the world actually is.
Absolutely.
It's quite stupid if you're not. If you're because like I feel like a lot of people like, because you're from Oklahoma, yeah?
Nebraska.
Okay.
Pat and Logan, Oklahoma. Okay. Yeah.
That's Bible Belt. So lots of people over, in a way, like there's a lot of people, they only have their circle. Yeah. This happens in LA too. Like it happens everywhere. Like if you're in a place where you feel very comfortable, people who are listening, I suggest you get out of it.
Yeah.
Not because you're supposed to be in a state of danger, but because you're not seeing where God actually is trying to move. God doesn't move in people who are healthy. They move in people who are sick. Who was Jesus hanging out with? The lepers, the cripples, all the people that were broken and cast out in society.
Well, it's just like I was talking about this the other day. Is like you want to see a miracle. Well, you need to be put in a position to where you need a miracle.
Yeah, right.
But nobody wants to be in a catastrophic moment like that.
Right.
But I want a miracle. I want to see God move.
Right? I think you need to position yourself to be obedient to where God is trying to take you. And I think for me, I was obedient. Like, I really think that Easter service was essential for my growth.
Yeah.
I was obedient to just be like, okay, I feel like I'm supposed to read this thing. I end up getting scouted. I end up going through all this stuff, seeing all these things, but then I'm so equipped to help other people. I'm so equipped to be a voice in a place that usually people can't actually verbalize the things they're feeling or the things they experience. You know, you're having to deal with all these extremes. And I think it's important. I see it as a tool.
It's back to obedience with that. You know, obedience is good because you're not obedient because you know what's going to happen.
No.
You're obedient because you're listening and following the one who calls you, and you know that he's good. You know that he is truth. And even if you don't know that, you're going to find out.
Yep. Eventually.
Yeah.
You'll know eventually.
Yeah. And that's why. So like, yeah, I guess even if you don't know that, why should you be obedient when God calls you? You know, that's how you learn about God.
Right.
Also, he reveals himself through the things that he takes you through and the way that he shows up in those times.
Yeah.
So even God taking us through dark times and dark seasons, it might seem like, God, you are ruining my life. I don't know what you're doing, but and I feel like you brought me through this time for whatever reason. Like, I don't know why you're doing it.
Yeah.
But he's also like, I'm going to show you who I am in the good times, in the bad times, in the challenging times, in every single time, in the sad times. I've seen who God is as a comforter. I've seen who God is like he truly does care. And I've gotten to see that heart show up, but I had to be sad.
For sure.
And I've gotten to see that he does provide and do miracles, but I had to be in times where I was in need out here. Like, all right, God, if you don't do it,
right,
like legally I'm in trouble.
Right.
Like I'm done for. Like I have no clue how this happens.
Right.
And I've gotten to see that, and it's all obedience because even in those times he's saying, do this. Well, do that. Well, God, that makes no sense. It actually doesn't look connected at all.
And he's like, no, shut up.
Yep. Just do it.
It does.
I see it. I see it.
Okay.
I know the Lego pieces I'm using.
Yeah, right, exactly. Exactly.
Yep, you can't see it.
He has the whole pamphlet for the whole building of the universe.
Yeah.
Who am I to say that I know anything more than he does?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think again, it's this thing of humility. You have to admit to yourself that you just don't know.
Yeah.
You just don't know. You're not
don't know.
supposed to know. That's not what faith is. Faith is purely based on the unknown. That's the definition of what it is.
Absolutely.
If we all knew the end game, we all knew the end result of what our lives would look like if we obeyed God, there would be no love in that.
No.
It's, again, extractional. You're expecting something very specific in return for something you feel like you're supposed to give. That's not the same thing.
Yeah.
That's why God gave us the opportunity to choose. You can either know what good and evil looks like, or you can have me. That was the Garden of Eden, you know? And he wasn't doing that because he thought, men are so fallible, let me taunt them.
Yeah.
It was because if there was no opportunity for choice, then what is love? You're just programmed at that point. You know, if that's all you know, then what else is there? But again, that came down to obedience. Don't do this. It's the one thing that you focus in on, and it's like, oh, but what if I do? Oh, but what if I do? What would happen? You know what I mean? But like, you're not supposed to know.
Yeah.
That's the amazing, amazing, amazing character of God, is that he's covered that, and that he just wants to take you on this journey and take you wherever it is, whatever industry you're in, whatever moment in life, whether it's like you're wanting to just build a family. Like, that's awesome. We need good fathers and good mothers. Goodness gracious.
Yes, we do.
Like even if it's that, or if it's like to be a very prolific, incredible businessman, like we need that too. People who are on these different mountains of society. It's like we need people to bring us up.
Yeah.
And I think it's impossible to be entrusted if you're a person who operates from a very faulty character. He can't trust you.
Yeah.
You know, because you haven't proven your ability to deal with the small things. You know, like my pastor at Vintage Malibu, like he was saying the other day, like he was working as a window cleaner when he lived in Oklahoma, and there was this one window in this one house. No one was ever going to see this window. It was on the back of the house.
Yeah.
There was no backyard, and there was no one going to see it. Covered in cobwebs, everything. He passed over it. He felt so convicted immediately. Like it was like as soon as he looked over that window, and he felt God say, like, if I can't trust you to clean that window, I cannot appoint you for the next thing that you're supposed to do.
Wow.
It's the smallest things.
In all the details.
It's all the details, and it's integrity.
Yeah.
It's character. Not for the sake of, but because that is the character of God. That's who he is. Jesus was the same to everyone.
Yeah.
And he was the epitome of what it meant to live a good, noble, kind, loving life.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I need to know.
That's it.
It
It's
should
all
be.
about the heart of it. It's
is.
always deeper than just what you did or didn't do.
Right.
It's why you did or didn't do it,
Right.
and how you saw it and how you felt about
Right.
it. It's always the heart thing.
So subjective to every person too.
I like what you said, because a lot of people see that as the reason they don't want to believe in God is, why do I believe in God who doesn't want to tell me anything? I'm just supposed to trust him and just walk in the unknown. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I think a lot of people don't like that about God. But I think when
Yeah.
you look at the garden too, there was protection and love in don't eat that fruit.
Right.
This fruit brings the knowledge of good and evil. You are living in a blissful state of love and protection and just relying on me as your source for wisdom. And like,
Yeah.
we're just hanging out.
Yeah.
Like, this is what it is. I'm going to teach you. I made you in my image. Like, this is the beautiful thing. But I like tempted to eat the fruit. Now has the ability of the knowledge of good and evil. So now you're making your own decisions according to your own wisdom and knowledge, but you were never created that way.
Yeah.
To have all that weight, because that's a lot of weight to know how to navigate everything.
A lot of
And so even with our lives, like, it is a blessing that God wants to hide some of the details of our lives from us so that we can believe in him
Right.
and walk after it with him, because then he reveals a path to us that actually is perfect because it's tailored to our lives.
Sure.
It doesn't feel perfect,
Yeah.
but it is perfect. And it doesn't feel perfect because growth just is challenging.
Yeah.
Growth hurts. Growth is tough. You have to pave that terrain as you walk it with God, but it is the way for you.
Right.
And so we start walking with God and we experience difficulty, and then we stop walking with God and we walk our own way and we choose things that we think is better.
Right.
But really, you're giving yourself more difficulty in the way you're doing it, but you don't see it as difficulty because it feels comfortable and it's a way that you're paving.
Right.
But that's the thing. It's the trust that you actually do have something for me.
Right.
And it's good. Yeah. And so faith, just learning to trust God, trust God to walk that path, to go after it and be obedient in it is how you learn who God is. For sure. And why he does things.
Yep. Yep. And the thing that I tell people all the time is, like, people feel like Christianity, it's so limiting. It makes it like when you start giving yourself to God, like, your options are gone.
No.
And I was like, the thing I always tell people is, okay, sure, in the way that you're thinking right now, which is only within the confines of the world.
Exactly.
If you're in the world, right, automatically there is a limit to how much we can experience in this life.
Yeah.
Automatically. So people usually resort to absolute depravity because that's the only options that are the most extreme or whatever to like fill this empty void, whatever, right? But if you're giving your life to God, you have now completely created an infinite spiritual scope that is so beyond, but it does knock out things in the world that are not feeding into that truthfulness and into that new reality of what it means to have a good life.
Absolutely.
And so I think actually it's a much more freeing life because you've gotten rid of all those distractions. And so the parameters are a lot more clear. And so when you have, because I mean, like, so you're raising a kid. First, the thing that they're operating in is their blanket. That's the thing they've been entrusted with.
Yeah.
Then they have the playpen. Then they have the living room. Then they have the house. Then they have school and the house. Then they have, it's this constant growth of the parameters, but there's always a parameter.
Yeah.
Because it guides your growth into something bigger, because you're able to be entrusted with it. If you are a baby and you're put in the world, the entire world is your limit, you're so lost because there's no direction.
No.
There's no way to go because you can go wherever you want. And so I think it's the same thing of like, as a follower of Jesus, like you start as a baby because you're reborn.
Exactly.
You're completely redone as a human. And so God is like, I'm going to trust you with this blanket. Then he can trust you with the playpen. Then he can trust you, Then he can trust you with heaven.
Yeah.
Like it keeps going. And I feel like when you think of it that way, you
So
actually
good.
are a lot more freed.
Yeah.
Because you're not operating from a place of, I can't do this. It's, I am enabled to do so much more.
Yeah.
With the small things, maybe it may feel like small in the world, but in the kingdom, it's a completely upside down kingdom.
Absolutely.
It doesn't operate in the same rules. And like that's why I've been saying this, like the blueprint changes.
Because identity in him and through him and in the kingdom looks different than it does in the world. So you might see the things that God leads you to do in your new identity as, like you said, insignificant,
Right.
or even see it like a waste of time,
Right.
or you might question it more because it's completely foreign to not just you, but to the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, the thing that you do through that obedience, it may be a direct thing. Like, okay, I'm talking to this person. Oh, they're a manager. It could be that.
Yeah.
Or it could be, I'm going to talk to this person. Okay, nothing happened, but I'm coming from a place of obedience. And so when the next thing happens, you're not even questioning it. You're just that person that is just obedient. That's when God can use that.
He's always looking at the heart of it. Always.
And so like if you can be in a state where you're not looking and striving for something, you're just in relationship with God. There's literally nothing that can stop it.
Yeah.
Literally nothing.
Yeah.
Only yourself. Honestly, I believe that. It's like every person on their walk with God, the only inhibitor is ourselves. Not even the devil can really get in the way of God.
Yeah.
It's if we allow him to take over that path that we've already been walking on with God. Like that's it. Because people don't actually understand how unpowerful the devil is.
Absolutely.
He is so not powerful. He's just the epitome of the natural reaction to being a human. Like our design is
I have
to
a
be
deep thought on this right now.
Dude, okay, go.
Because a lot of people will hear that and be like, how is he not powerful?
Right.
Like so many things still happen that he does. He's using us. We are actually powerful as God created us and gives us power also.
Yep.
But the devil uses us. He will inspire a thought here.
Yes.
He'll inspire a thought there.
Yes.
He'll corrupt the way you see this. He'll corrupt the way you want to do this. He'll draw you and lure you here.
Yeah.
You're the one actually creating all the destruction. He's adding all this destruction by manipulation, really. It's not even because he's just raining down with all this power.
Yeah.
And if you are a believer, the enemy's under your feet.
Right.
You have the authority through the Holy Spirit to put him in his place, to cast him out, to destroy the works of the enemy. As Jesus said, he came to destroy the works of the devil.
Yeah.
So we have that same power. So we're not in fear of him or in a power struggle with him. We have to know our position in our seat.
Yeah. Yeah. The devil is known as the father of lies. That's the only thing.
And Jesus said it's actually his native tongue, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
We read this the other night, and he was saying it's the devil's native language to lie.
It's all he knows.
That's all he knows.
But that's all he can do. Because when you're operating and you're just being yourself and everything, whatever, and the devil comes in and says, oh, but you do know, like, they don't love you, though. Like, if you think about it, like that one time you dropped your fork on the floor, they all thought you were an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, right? And it's the small,
I am an idiot.
right?
Wow.
And then you believe that. And then you say, I'm not loved. Oh, wait, I'm not significant. Then you start making dumb decisions. And then the devil's like, but it's okay. God's forgiving, right? You can keep moving on. Keep doing the same thing. It's so slight. But all these decisions, because a lot of the time, like when people ask me, like when they find out like I follow Jesus and whatever, they're like, well,
When
why?
I follow Jesus
just
or
follow
whatever. When they find out I'm a Christian.
I love the Lord.
Whatever.
They're asking, it's always the question, why do so many bad things happen in the world?
Yeah.
Well, bad things happen in the world usually are tied to people. And when you think about it, if there's like a war going on, okay, yes, those happen, but that started somewhere way down the line when someone believed something false that in order to be powerful, they had to kill. Right? Mm-hmm. That started with a lie.
So now this is exactly. So it's not, the enemy is so powerful in this world. He lies. He introduces thought.
Yeah, he introduces his thought and it introduces a identity that is different and divergent from what God actually sees you as.
So good.
And so in reality, I think people generalize tragedy too much. Mm-hmm. It comes down to people. Like, I mean, like the other day, well, not the other day, 2 weeks ago, a friend of mine who, I don't know if you heard about.
That's one of the biggest things my girlfriend points out. So when you're watching this, he says the other day too. Totally fine. The other day can be yesterday or 7 months ago.
7 months ago, yeah.
It was the other day.
I know. It's a very English thing too. Like,
that's
it
hilarious.
happens all the time. But yeah.
Well, that's where I get it from because
there you go. But the other day, there was, I don't know if you heard about the Pepperdine incident where there was a car crash situation on PCH, but there were 4 students who were killed by this car, and it smacked into a bunch of cars, killed all 4 girls immediately.
My goodness, wow.
And one of my friends from high school was one of the girls.
Wow.
So sudden, so random, and it destroyed so many people because like everyone at my church, everyone at Pepperdine, everyone like in the Thousand Oaks area knew these girls. And so it really like, it was a hit and it really was like so dark and so awful. But I feel like if I was myself 3 years ago, I would be like, what on earth, God? Why would you do that? Mm-hmm. I'd be so angry. But I knew that the guy who was doing that, he was, I think, racing and just got out of control and, just lost it. And it wasn't intentional. But again, there's a context to why he was there in that moment and made a bad decision. And that the devil is tries to be strategic with how he places things so that he can make people who believe God is good believe he's not. And I'm like, I will never believe that. I will never believe that. And so whenever like tragedy like that comes, it's so disheartening and God mourns so heavily for those kinds of losses, but it's not him. And I feel like that's so important to recognize is God, it's not his character to not be good. It's all he is. The things that happen in our lives, the things that happen, like whether it's illness, people are born a certain way, like whatever it is, fill in the blank. There are lies attached to things that always come to a place of trying to play victim. And the devil loves that. Loves making people feel like everything is happening to them. But God wants to remind them that it's happening for them. It's very slight language change. But if you keep saying like, okay, God, why does it keep happening to me?
Yeah.
Why does this keep happening to me? Why is it happening to these people? Start saying, why is this happening for me?
Exactly.
How can I move forward in this thing that is so difficult and so devastating, so hard? But why is it happening for me? I think, again, it's just changing how you are phrasing because that blueprint has shifted. It's changed.
Yeah.
And so you're operating again.
Because even when it's bad, it's working for your good because God will work all things together for your good.
Exactly. He even uses that language.
Yeah. Wow. That's good. It's not happening to me. It's happening for me. Yeah, it's very tough for people to wrestle with. And I think to your same point, and also I'm very sorry about your loss and the loss of so many. To that same point, I've seen a lot of death lately or a lot of tragedy coming to Christian homes and coming to different people who are strong, good Christian believers.
Yeah.
And you'll think, why didn't God protect them, or why didn't they have a certain level of a grace around them or on them? Like, why did it happen to them? And sometimes I wonder, because I think that, maybe it's the way we're taught in church. Maybe it's the way that we assume it's going to go walking with God. Like, I'm walking faithfully with you. I'm doing these different things with you. And this stuff still happens to me or around me or to my people. We're not staying here. This isn't about earth. We are passing through. This is about getting back to him. So even the fact that we get saved and we learn who he is and we get our salvation, now we're walking out this journey to know him, and then to bring others along the journey to know him, because we're not staying here. We're leaving, and our days are numbered. God knows how long we'll be here. God knows why we're here. And so we can't get caught up in blaming God for the evil that happens in the world. He has already given you his hand and an invitation to leave this world and to leave evil forever.
Right.
Come be with me.
Right.
Come be with me in heaven.
Yeah.
And so he's given us that option that we can have. And so I've learned that perspective lately too, and not to speak it and then believe it and then see it in my life. Bad things could happen to me because I don't receive that. And that's not something I'm desiring.
Yeah.
But I've learned that even if things did happen that I didn't agree with or I didn't like, it wouldn't be that God doesn't love me as much, or he's not protecting me, or he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Things can happen for me, because bad things have happened to me and they've happened for me.
Yep.
And they have actually trained me in a new way of thinking. They've grown me. They've given me new perspective. They've given me new grace and given me new ability to love people in a different way, see things in a different way, more patience, but more humility, because we don't know everything and God knows everything. So when things happen that I don't understand or agree with, now I can take a seat of humility and know that God does understand. And so now I'm asking for his perspective and his lens, rather than this is how I see it and it's clearly wrong and I don't agree with it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's very easy to feel like we can play God in some aspects, in some ways, because it all comes down to like wanting to be in control. Like, who does not want to be in control of their life? For sure. I mean, I'm going to be learning that a lot more now that I've moved out. And like the new responsibilities that I'm taking on and everything. And like even just going to the supermarket being like, food's expensive when you do a full fridge, you know what I mean?
And if I buy only the stuff that I like to eat, I'm not going to have a well-balanced diet.
Exactly. And so it's all these things that you learn as you go. And, you know, to anybody listening, like this isn't pressure to get to a place of maturity with God. I'm nowhere close to where God wants to take me. There's so much more. I'm
always more.
Like a fifth into my life. You know what I mean? Like there's not even, there's so much more that I'm going to learn. There's probably things even I'm saying today that I'm like, will probably get reformed and refined.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And I think about that a lot.
You do?
Yeah.
Because I'm okay with that, because like, I think oftentimes people speak from a place of absolute. I'm not.
No.
I'm like, dude, this is what I know right now. This is how I think right now. This is what I've been gifted right now.
Yeah.
It may completely change.
Well, people will validate it right where it is too. Like, he is so wise.
Right.
That what he just said, that is it.
That's it. And I'm like, it's a part of it, but there's so many ways to think about everything. And that's why we need to look through the lens of how God sees it. And I try my best to always speak from that place and not from a place of, because it's very easy to go on a tangent and then start speaking as me, Asher.
Exactly.
Versus what does God want to say through me, Asher? You know what I mean? And that's a very different way of speaking.
This exact thing. I thought about this the other day and it came to me. Wisdom is situational. Wisdom isn't like as far as how it comes to you from God, because God has given me wisdom and a word before where I'm like, that is from God. And it applied perfectly to my situation.
Right then.
And I tried to deliver that wisdom to somebody else in a different situation, but it wasn't for them.
No.
But it was still God's word. It was still truth. But God's word had wisdom backing it, and it put it into this moment for a reason, because wisdom is strategic.
Yes.
And so even that's good. You could learn so much from God. And then next thing you know, you think like you said, I, Asher, have this thing to say.
Yeah.
Well, you, Asher, are using things that are wise but out of place.
Right.
So now it's foolish.
Right.
It's not wisdom.
Right.
And it doesn't apply.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in the Bible, it talks about the wineskin and how if you have your wineskin, right, it has a specific type of wine and you've emptied it and you put in a new wine to that skin, it will probably burst. It actually breaks and corrupts because you're trying to put something that was over here and put it into thing over here, but it can't handle it. It's the same analogy as like giving pearls to pigs.
Yes.
You can't do that because they don't value the same thing that maybe you were given as valuable.
Exactly.
It's still just a little ball.
Yeah.
But to me, it's important. To them, it just looks like muck. You know what I mean? And so again, I think that's really good. Like wisdom is situational. And I think when you talk to people who are wise, quote unquote, it's because they recognize that. They recognize that it is subjective to that person in that moment for their calling. We are such different humans. We are all wired completely differently and in some aspects very similarly. So it feels like the thing I'm relating to, it will resonate. And that's like, again, like with my music.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel this, my life, I've experienced this, and this. But if I say this, I'm going to sound so pretentious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to do runways on, and I modeled for Dolce & Gabbana. Isn't that relatable? It's like, no. But what I learned through it was, what it meant to be kind. That's relatable. I learned what it meant to be like sexualized. That's relatable and weird. But it's like, but that's what I learned through this. Yes. And that through thing is subjective to every single person. How we get to the essence of what it means to be wise and what it means to be in relationship with God. There's so many different segues, paths, transitions to get to that place. And it continually gets refined. Refined and refined and refined and refined. And we're never going to get to a place of absolute purity. But God just loves the pursuit. That's all he wants.
Yeah.
He just wants people who are after his heart. That's it.
Just to close out right there is be open to the refining. Because that also challenged my relationship with God a lot. Is because I wasn't just, when I got out of the space of, I'm starting to hear his voice. Then when I was like, I know that's God. It's like, this is for sure God. And then when I was writing down things he was saying, starting to know his voice, know for myself how I felt he was, there were things that I had went through that made me think, okay, that God was all over that, but that didn't feel like God.
Right.
And so then it would make me question him or like run from him because it was almost like, I don't know who you are by the way you did
what
that.
Are you?
That's not how you're supposed to go.
Right.
But he's introducing new glimpses of who he is through everything that he brings us through. And we get to acquire new wisdom through everything that we go through. And so we need to be open to the refining, the sharpening, the learning and the unlearning, and then the discernment, back to discernment with wisdom, just to know when to apply what, you know.
Right.
You blessed this whole home, this whole podcast.
It's all God.
This was amazing. It's all God.
It's all just speaking through me.
It's not even me. I'm just a vessel.
Yes.
That's the only thing it is.
No, I'm grateful to be here, and I'm glad that there was something God wanted to say through it all. I think, the through line. There's so many through lines, but it's all down to identity, man.
Yeah,
who you see yourself as, and how you present yourself to God, and in turn how that then spreads out to everybody around you. Like, it's huge, and I'm learning that again every day. It's day in and day out, and I just hope this is an encouragement to people. Like, if you're going through it, if you're questioning a lot of things, like, just submit, just let your ego go. We don't need that. We don't need that. Just learn to humble yourself and continually be open to learning and open to being deconstructed and reconstructed.
That's good. Yeah.